But I'm not supposed to say the... What is that?
I didn't like it.
In the forests of southeast Massachusetts, there is said to be a region attached more to the paranormal world than any other. This so-called Bridgewater Triangle is described as a hotspot of cryptid sightings, UFOs, and spirits. And right in the center lies the ancient Hockomock Swamp, named by the native Wampanoag as the place where spirits lie, and cursed by the loss of a long-forgotten colonial war. So I live right next to this, and I had never heard of any of it. So my first time hearing the story, my immediate reaction was, wait, that's like right next to the mini golf course. And yes, it is. It's right next to the mini golf course. So I thought, I just gotta see this. So I gathered up another skeptic and as much camera equipment as we could carry, and we both set out for the center of the swamp one night in July as the sun began to set. So right now we're entering the infamous to some Hockomock Swamp. To others it seems it's just a nice bike trail. But this is one of the really only untouched areas of one of the most urban parts of this country because it's such crappy land. All the Puritans and pilgrims who came here couldn't really farm here, couldn't really do nothing with it. There was a plan to drain it and turn it to farmland, but that never went through. So here we are, untouched, right between Boston and Providence, two of the major urban hubs of the Northeast, walking into supposedly a haunted forest, which is doubtful, but entertaining. So to those who are familiar with the forests of the Northeast, this is pretty run-of-the-mill. Nothing abnormal, swampy yet.
Nothing's really jumping
Wetlands
out.
maybe.
There was a chipmunk.
Apparently things are going to jump out physically at us, maybe abduct us.
Maybe a little probing here and there.
There might be a bit of probing, and if that's the case, I might be returning.
I think that would call for a further investigation, if you will.
Maybe a little bit more. I might have to probe into the subject myself. Right now we're walking along the Old Colony Railroad, which was a pretty main line in the late 1800s, kind of died off by the 50s. So now it's mostly a bike trail, which is convenient for us because it just leads straight through the swamp, one of the only things that really does. Our plan was to walk 1.5 miles into the swamp down a train line turned bike path, one infamous for sightings of strange glowing lights. But the further we walked, the more inexplicable things began to happen. The air's electric. The paranormal activity. She's haunted, all right. Flew my eye.
They're trying to stop us from seeing the truth.
Beyond the pterodactyls, ghosts, burial grounds, Bigfoot encounters, and even murders, we were warned online of spotty cell service and the potential to get lost. But on our walk, our main concern soon became the one aspect of a haunted swamp we hadn't accounted for: the swamp part. I'm feeling spirits buzzing around my head and biting me in the eyes.
There are apparitions sucking my blood right now.
There's a bunch of vampires around here, man. I swear I'm losing liters.
The Hockomock Swamp is home to a number of rare and endangered animals like barn owls, spotted turtles, and a whole bunch of others. What's not rare? The sightings of UFOs, Bigfoot, and puckwudgies.
What's not rare? The paranormal activity. And that's what we're here to find tonight. Oh my god, fly in my ear. Did you hear that?
Yes.
God damn it. But what's not rare are the millions of fucking mosquitoes. As you might be able to gather by this point, the majority of the information online concerning the swamp is somewhat sensational. With all these claims seemingly written by people who had little actual knowledge of the place, we decided the only way to get to the bottom of the mystery surrounding the swamp was to experience it for ourselves, and to delve into the origin of these myths. So at the center of the swamp, we turned off the path into the woods, set up some chairs, and started talking. Is that a branch hanging off my ear? We sat about here, north of the Raynham dog track, off what used to be a rail line, both of which are cited as hotspots for sightings, particularly of glowing orbs, which are said to travel the swamp at night. Both of us are not really superstitious at all, don't really believe in anything like that, and we've come out here to talk about the history of this place and debunk or see if anything happens.
See if anything happens.
I want something to happen, to be honest. I mean, I don't. I'm gonna shit my pants.
If anything happens, I will freak out. Especially because I don't know if you get this sort of vibe or energy from just watching us, but we're the only ones illuminated out here. The sun has gone down. You can barely see the sky. Even though we're not that far from the trail, if you look out, it's just pitch black. It's just forest. So, Hockomock Swamp is the largest freshwater swamp in the state.
Yep.
It's a few hundred acres of wild, untamed wilderness.
As far as untamed goes in this part of the country.
I mean, there's a big-ass bike path going through a good portion of it, but...
This is really some of the only area in this part of New England, right near where the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth, near the Providence colony, that is really just untouched.
Yeah, it's really been undeveloped for pretty much the whole time.
A lot of the forests around here were farmland 100 years ago, but this area, because it's a swamp, never really, was developed. I'm kind of interested in the idea of legends around this area, because we both grew up just a few miles from here.
Yeah.
Hadn't really heard about this legend, and we looked at it online, kind of stumbled upon it, and it kind of sounds a little bit laughable. Bridgewater. That's where I go to get Wendy's.
It's just right over. It's just Bridgewater. That's it.
But it's an important thing to take note of. How much history has happened here, and how different.
As much myth and legend is attached to the Bridgewater Triangle, there is a fair amount of true history over here. I feel like part of it's kind of been bogged down in mess. I'm not talking about native myth and legend. I'm talking about UFOs.
Yeah.
And Bigfoot, but...
So, where did it all start? Every good ghost story starts with some history, some event in the past which now haunts the present. The story of the Hockomock begins with the Wampanoag, the native peoples of southeastern Mass. The Wampanoag developed a deep connection to the swamp as it proved an important and abundant hunting ground. Perhaps because of its practical value, the region further developed into one of great spiritual significance. Hockomock translates in Algonquin to place where spirits lie. It's important to note here that this refers not only to malevolent but benevolent spirits. The English settlers chose not to share this view, referring to it instead as Devil's Swamp. Every time there's a triangle, it's always the same. There's always the same few basic things.
Yeah.
Floating lights, big one.
Yeah. A few claims of Bigfoot, UFOs. What else?
Ghost trains. No, I made that up.
I believed you for a second. I was like, oh yeah, this sounds good.
Holy shit. I would actually be really excited about a ghost train.
A ghost train? Just hearing a train and then just
no
track?
No, a train that's blue and see-through. It's a literal ghost train. And they'd stop the Polar Express and they'd be like, all aboard.
Come on. Would you get on?
You mean, would I get on? Of course I'd get on.
Yeah, no.
You wouldn't get on the ghost train?
I wouldn't get. I'd be like, I'm waiting for the next one.
I guess it would probably go to hell or something.
No, I feel like you'd make a stop at hell. I don't think it ends there. It might take
usually with these legends, there's a moral where it's there's no oh, I learned my lesson, let me go back. It's oh no, you're in hell now. Whatever.
I guess.
Oh
I feel like a ghost train being oh, come on aboard. I feel like it'd at least make a stop at a local Walmart or something before it reached hell.
But if it's riding on ghost tracks, the infrastructure wouldn't be built around Walmart. The Walmart's probably on a road thoroughfare.
Wait, stop at the spot of an old medicine shop.
Yeah. You can buy some Coca-Cola with Coke in it. That's about the extent.
Coming up on Sir Thomas's medicine shop. It's nothing there.
A lot of the legend of the Bridgewater Triangle in this area, especially the Hockomock Swamp, which we're in, is it kind of dates back to King Philip's War, which I have some notes on. Oh my god, it's overexposed. It's fine.
Now, who is King Philip?
And what was he fighting wars over?
When I first heard about King, and I've known about it for a while, because we've like looked into the Bridgewater Triangle for a bit, a few years past. For the longest time, I thought it was like some European British king. Actually,
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And I was like, oh man, screw that guy.
Yeah,
what
King
was he
Philip
doing?
Sounds like an asshole.
But that's not the case.
It's not the case. As English as Philip sounds, this war actually takes its namesake from the chief of the Wampanoag tribe from 1662 to 1676, a key figure in the cultural exchange and eventual conflict between the Puritan settlers and the region's original inhabitants, a relationship begun in large part by his father. His name was Massasoit. He's the guy who met the Pilgrims, kind of that whole Thanksgiving deal. And he had generally good relations, but as good as you can have with people like the Puritans. We're really talking about people who came and they were completely set that all of Europe was incorrect and they couldn't stand them. Imagine how they interacted with native who have completely different ideas about almost everything.
Yeah.
A lot of conversion, or attempted conversion. As we all know, the cordial relations established at Plymouth did not last. As the European population continued to rise rapidly, the need for land to settle grew and grew, making any efforts for coexistence not worthwhile to the burgeoning Puritan population. Mistreatment and manipulation of the Wampanoag became more and more frequent, and the practice of offering natives alcohol in order to coax the signing of land sales while they were intoxicated became commonplace. As chief of the tribe, Metacomet, or by his anglicized name King Philip, chose to annul the alliance between the Wampanoag and the English settlers amid increasing maltreatment.
Why King Philip? Where did that come from?
So I think it was a diplomatic move. He was trying to get along with
relate to them.
Yeah, cultural exchange, because there's a fair amount of natives who attempted to synchronize with the cultures, with European culture.
Right.
And a lot of times it was just not accepted. War came on the 20th of June, 1675, a few days short of 347 years before our visit to the swamp, when Metacomet led a raiding party against the town of Swansea. By September 9th, the entirety of the New England colonies had declared war against King Philip. The war grew to involve most of the tribes of New England, and even the Mohawk of New York, in a patchwork of alliances. Some native groups, such as the Mohegans and Pequots, sided with the English, fighting against the Wampanoag. Both sides raided settlements, killing hundreds of non-combatants. Despite being woefully outnumbered, King Philip's forces managed to destroy settlements across New England, although the tide of the war would inevitably turn against the Wampanoag. Fighting a guerrilla campaign, Metacomet based his operations from the swamps of southeastern Massachusetts. Some of the more famous battles, especially with the Wampanoag, were fought here, because this was where King Philip, or Metacomet, was said to have based his operations out of, because it's difficult to get in here.
It makes sense. It's dense. It's a swamp.
Yeah.
If you're a European, I probably wouldn't want to be fighting.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be in a swamp either.
You think the swamp, just the idea of a swamp, kept them out? It's yucky.
It sounds gross.
I don't want to go there.
It said there's supposed to be a cave here, right? You heard about that?
There's a cave. I'm not sure if it's necessarily in this part of the forest, but it's around here where he supposedly hid out in just before he was killed.
He was killed in Rhode Island, but
the cave was probably one of the last
yeah.
locations where he hid before he was captured.
The cave he was said to have hidden shortly before his death lies about 2.5 miles from here, now cut off from the swamp by a series of neighborhoods. King Philip's War is considered to be the bloodiest war per capita in American history, and around 5,000 people would perish in the conflict. The combined effects of the war, ranging from disease to food shortages, decreased the English population by up to 30%, and the native one by up to 50%. When the dust settled, the damage was done. The indigenous people of New England would never recover, their population already decimated by epidemics. Many were enslaved and sent to the Bahamas, including Metacomet's son. Metacomet himself met a grisly end. His head was impaled on a spike at the entrance to the Plymouth colony, where it was displayed for 2 decades. The war opened the door for further settlement, transforming the landscape dramatically, draining swamps and clearing forests. And this was like a really jarring switch that happened here, and it happened all around here. Like, New England grew at like an incredible rate. Like, I think the birth rate was like around 7 kids per woman, something like that, for a really long time. Like, you can trace a lot of American like ancestry right back to the Mayflower, like onto the ship. If someone says they're like related to someone on the Mayflower, it's like not a big claim. It really isn't.
It's scary.
But yeah, so the population in 1630, 3,000.
Okay.
Then 1640, 14,000. Or up to 20,000.
Right.
I've heard both numbers. 33 in 1660. And then by 1700, it was 91,000. So it was exploding.
Yeah, that's...
Because a lot of the idea of this, the Puritan way, is just settler. Like, everyone needs their community. It's like very town-based, which is why this forest is like pretty interesting in that it escaped that.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, that war is a pretty tragic, like, baseline.
Yeah.
For an area like this. Obviously, it's not the baseline, but it's the baseline of this myth.
For the myth, yeah. It is. It's history. It did happen. It did occur, but I feel like it's also been like woven into the mythos of the Bridgewater Triangle. So one of the main reasons why this area, or at least the Bridgewater Triangle, is thought to be formed and cursed is because of a certain Wampanoag artifact being lost, known as the Wampum Belt. Supposedly, when it was lost, it kind of cursed the area and the land, and it's kind of the reasoning for all the sightings and mishaps that happen around here.
Is that why there's so many mosquitoes?
I think that just might be the swamp.
Yeah.
It is a lot of mosquitoes.
The wampum belt is... Essentially, a wampum belt is a traditional belt made of wampum shells, a real left fielder of a name. They're often used to record tribal history and legends. The wampum belt of the Wampanoag was said to be lost within the Bridgewater Triangle sometime near Metacomet's death, resulting in our cursed swamp. That's the Bridgewater Triangle story.
Yeah.
I think most historians think it was taken as a spoil of war back to England, and they're still like looking for it. It's still kind of an active part
it's still kind of lost.
The Wampanoag community, but for our purposes, it's here and it's very haunted.
Do you think the belt is haunted? Like, what happens if you find it? Do you think the curse just is like, okay,
I feel like
I'm out.
If we found it, picking it up would be a bad decision.
Really?
I would mark it on Google Earth or like Google Maps. I'd drop a pin.
I think you picking it up might not be the best decision.
You don't have any connection to this either.
Okay, but I don't think I have a direct line to the people who lost it. I feel like your line is closer.
No, because my family came from fucking Germany in like 1880. And no later.
Okay,
all right?
I don't
Germany,
think,
1880.
I feel
not
like
Germany, 1945.
I feel like the belt at this point is kind of just sick. I don't think he wants to go through the whole ancestry tree. I think he's just gonna say,
white man.
No touch.
So that's what I'm saying. I would drop, a point on Google Maps, and I'd call up the Wampanoag community, and I'd be like, you have no idea what I just found.
you're gonna want to see this.
First off, I would make a clickbait YouTube video about it.
That was the first.
And then I would send the video to them. I'd be wearing it like a wrestling belt.
You just give us like 300 more years of curse. I think
I would just get like incredibly cursed.
Oh.
I'd be followed by all these mosquitoes wherever I go. I think that's what would happen.
There's a constant cloud of mosquitoes following you.
The only reason it's not bad now, it was really bad on the way in. I'm like 13% in bug repellent right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Again,
I have like a film on me.
I took a picture of you earlier, and it looks like sweat, but it's not. It's just bug repellent.
This would be a nightmare to lead a raiding party into. If I was just some chump from Boston
Yeah.
who thought the devil was like an alcohol in the air, I would not be stoked about going in here at night trying to burn a settlement.
The other thing is how much of it was like clear like this.
Oh, there would have been no path. I mean, I'm sure there were trading paths and paths that native groups use.
Maybe, but nothing. I don't think anything like
Deer
this.
make paths. I'm sure that the you go. I don't know.
Who knows?
I think they climbed through the trees. You colonizer.
It's not even what I meant.
Looking at it through the eyes of like maybe like a 1600s pilgrim coming here, like in these dark forests, these untamed, ungodly woods, I can see where certain legends would come from, or certain myths, or just being scared in general.
The idea of like arriving on a continent that's like it wasn't unoccupied. It was very occupied. That's an important thing to note, but like very alien to your own. And just setting up and just getting off the boat, and what do you do?
And like think about it, like comparing maybe like North America, specifically like New England, to Europe at the time. Europe had been like, I'm not going to say settled because people were living here, but it was settled in a different way.
Like all the forests were cut down.
Everything was cleared. Nature was more or less like controlled. Things were under control in Europe. Here, the natives have more of a, I'm not going to say connection.
Like,
I mean, they did have more of a connection,
like
but
a
it was more
coexistence.
sustainable, and they knew how to, live on the land without stripping it.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it almost stayed wild, or it almost stayed natural. And I feel like that's scary for someone. That's scary for someone coming from Europe.
And I think that's kind of why this spot of woods is special,
Yeah, it's like keeping up with that whole. Everywhere else, at least around here, has been tamed, controlled, taken care of. But this land has been undeveloped for a long time, and it's kept its, almost wild state.
Like maybe here, like if there is any place that you are going to sneak into the past, whether it be literal, as in some evil little puckwudgie thing coming up and attacking you, or more spiritual, I guess.
Yeah.
It's here, it's...
This is a spot where something would happen. I mean,
Something moving over there, you hear that?
No.
I heard it.
Oh, this is the start. This is where...
No, I'm not afraid. It's probably like a squirrel.
A squirrel?
A ghost squirrel? Oh my god. A cursed baseball hit. Why am I like so relaxed? I think I'm just being obnoxious about the whole like, I'm not afraid. I'm just...
The thing is, I'm not as scared talking now.
It's not scary talking.
If
really.
you talk about how scary it is, it's scary, I guess. But we're just talking about...
We're mostly just talking about history.
We haven't hit the scary
We haven't had
parts.
any floating lights yet, but there is kind of a mythos to being out in the woods,
Yeah, I mean, Native Americans did have like stories, and obviously some of the sightings and occurrences are from Native legend, but I feel like theirs was like more of like a good healthy mix of like good and bad, just life with a supernatural element. I feel like a lot of like, at least now, or the European myths and legends about this place are like all negative.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you leave your house, you leave your town community, and the forest is like the other,
The forest is just waiting there like...
Yeah, it's like a big problem, That's kind of like why we're out here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's because like people assign such like fear to the forest, and I'm afraid of it, you know what I mean?
I mean, it is scary, but I feel like it's scary for a completely different reason.
Like, other than what?
I don't know. Like, again, like, I feel like it's natural, as us as, like, humans, to just be scared of the dark. We're not, we're, like, diurnal thing. Like, we're supposed to be out in the day. Our eyes are meant for like light and seeing during the day. So it's like just being in the dark where it's not our element and we can't see. I feel like it's like ingrained in us.
The dark is just, I don't know. There's been moments in my life where I'm not afraid of the dark.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think I'm like that. I don't think
But I
that's
feel like
something
that's
you ever
like,
get over.
I feel like the other part is like where we live. There's nothing like naturally that's gonna come get us in the dark.
That's
Another thing, because like in other parts of the world, if you go outside of like your town, your village, there's gonna be like a big predator.
Yeah.
That could actually come and actually eat you.
You talk about when Europeans first came here. This was wolf habitat. This was cougar habitat.
There were wolves, cougars, even wolverines.
Really?
Yeah, we had wolverines out here, and all those big major predators are just gone. They're locally extinct.
I mean, we were the major predator. You see the population growth, even through like there was some like really bad like native conflicts, like with King Philip's War being like chief among them, and it didn't slow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of immigration, but also just a lot of like baby making, you know, and it just immediately drove out anything that was here, and it made a new mythos, you know, here of that like synchronizing of cultures, but a lot of it is just expelling.
Yeah, just
getting rid of the forest.
So coyotes around here are very new. Coyotes don't naturally live, well now they do, but they don't naturally live or come from the east.
Yeah.
They're a western thing. And then once we pretty much killed all the wolves around here, the coyotes just spread and went east because they're more adaptable and they can live with humans easier. And so they also kind of mix with wolves. So the coyotes we have here are different from like normal coyotes in the west. They're like wolf coyote hybrids pretty much. And so though they don't like form packs, they have kind of learned how to like hunt deer in groups, at least during the winter when they're like really desperate.
Yeah.
And they haven't and they don't really hunt humans because they're like really scared of humans. Like they don't come out at night. I mean, they don't come out during the day.
I think they do come out at night.
That's their whole thing.
That's like their shtick.
They don't come out during the day to avoid people, and like at night they'll like travel across like train tracks.
The big Wampanoag kind of myth that you look at here is these things called puckwudgies, which is not a slur actually. I thought it was.
You did?
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
If I got called a puckwudgie, right? I don't know.
Okay, okay. When you put it like that, yeah.
Puckwudgies are described as gray-faced humanoid creatures endemic to the forests of the Northeast. Measuring only knee-high, these mischievous beings are known to play tricks, both harmless and deadly.
Okay, but do you really want to say that? What if they're out here and they take offense to that?
They would. So these things are... I almost stopped myself from saying allegedly. I was like, I don't want to offend them. I was like, oh, that'd be rude.
That's the thing. So they're not necessarily, at least according to legend, they're not necessarily like evil or bad. But if you offend them or do something they don't like, they will mess with you.
I think we're on a bad track.
I think so. I'm getting spooked now.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to offend them.
Yeah, no... That is, but it's like,
that's
why this is so interesting.
What offends them?
You know, these legends are like, I just find it really interesting because we grew up around here.
Yeah.
And there's no legends like that, really. The legends are like little Jimmy got his head decapitated on the train track, so don't go near there. You know, that's like, that's the type of legends that we have. It's like somebody, like, your mom ever tell you stuff like that?
No. My thing is like,
my mom was pretty tame with it, but like, your mom never was like, oh, like a buddy of mine, like their like son was like on the highway and they got like made into roadkill, so like don't go on the highway.
Alright, so my thing is like, other thing is we have like kind of not very different, but we have different upbringings, pretty much.
Why do you say that?
What makes you say that? I'm Haitian and my parents came here when they were younger, so I'm first generation American. So that means a lot of like some of the, not necessarily myths, but like any superstition from like Haiti is still kind of like carried over here because it's alive in them. And like there are little things where it's like don't point at a rainbow, or God will cut your finger off. So you.
Why would he do that?
I don't know. I was
so uncalled for.
I was told when I was younger, like, don't go like, oh, there's a rainbow, to point at it. Or
myths like that, or like superstitions like that, are always weird to me. Just because like
it feels very specific and like
it
very
feels like
uncalled
it's
for.
just trying to get you to like not do one irrelevant thing.
It just seems uncalled for. Like
I think it's just trying to make life spicier, like more interesting. Like don't step on a crack. It's kind of like that.
Yeah,
you know,
stuff like that. And so anything where it was just like, I never really got the like that. Oh yeah, I had an old friend who went down there and he died because any like old friend story would be like from Haiti.
Even after an hour of sitting out in the swamp, it seemed like none of the information we read online was going to turn out to be true, although we both had a sense of mounting uneasiness. All that being said, we did find some good pieces of advice online.
It being a swamp, it is wet. And that means it is easy to get wet if you are in there. And I feel like he brings up a good point.
He brings up a good point, but honestly, we got out here. You stepped in.
Yeah, I stepped in one.
I've been fine.
Yeah.
I've been doing all right. I don't even have like boots on. I just got.
Dude, I just have my sneakers.
I got my sneakers that are worn down to be like bowling shoes. That's all.
I got a little. Maybe my foot got a little damp, but that's it. I'm not feeling wet.
Yeah, you feeling like ectoplasm wet,
gooey. I'd be so mad if I got like ectoplasm. Like I feel like it doesn't come out.
Creamed on by a ghost. Who came up with that?
You know, like
right? Who came up with that?
I feel like it would be like the same. At least in like the movies, it feels like, you know, detergent. You ever gotten like detergent on you?
No. Oh
No?
yes, actually yes. So my roommate spilled it all over the backseat of my car.
So like I feel like that's what it would be like. And
Really annoying.
yeah,
I would scream at him. I would scream at the ghost.
this episode of Ghosting Ghouls.
Ghosts and Ghouls on location. Working name.
Ghosting Ghouls on
Sponsored
location.
by.
Bundaberg.
You know, honestly,
You just pull it up.
I think all these stories start with. Don't drop it in the. You're gonna pick that up, right?
Pick what up?
Oh, I heard something. Okay, I'm sorry. We need to be respectful. That's what I'm saying.
It was the
all
ginger
these
beer.
stories start with like Hansel and Gretel or whatever, going out and just being like pricks in the forest. I feel like we've established ourselves as
Another
thoughtful.
I feel like we haven't done anything that like a deer hasn't done.
What do you mean? Please go on.
You know what deers do?
No, I don't hang around them.
They'll like scrape a tree, break some branches just to say I'm in the mood. Just say I'm in the area.
Really?
Yeah.
And other deer see that and they're like,
Another deer will see it and be like, absolutely not, and then they'll break some more branches around it.
how as a deer can they really just like pick up on broken branches? I feel like that's kind of a.
No, so they have it's gross. I hate it, but a lot of animals in that family, like deer, gazelle, antelopes, they have a little hole under their eye and it has a gland, and they'll put the tips of branches in it and like just squeeze a little secretion on it,
Oh, what?
and they'll just like put it in and then it's just and like it's a goo, and that's how they scent mark. It's disgusting. You don't see it.
I really don't like deer.
You need to see a
Fine
picture.
with Wendigos though and all that, but I'm not supposed to say the. What is that?
I didn't like it. I heard it.
You're supposed to know all this stuff.
I don't know.
He's a big bird guy.
Maybe a flying squirrel. There are flying
We
squirrels.
have flying squirrels around here.
We have two species of
That
flying
totally
squirrels.
made me like not scared at all because those things are awesome.
I've seen a flying squirrel.
Really?
I had
I saw one on the YouTube.
No, like in person. I saw one on the YouTube. No, like I opened the nest box at my house, and I opened it from the top, and from the hole, a flying squirrel popped its head out, looked at me, and darted back
And
in.
flew.
It flew into my face.
As comfortable as we were talking, the swamp had an undeniable effect on me. Even though I truly believed I was safe from any of the sort of spirits and entities we had been discussing, the instinctual dread of the darkness surrounding us was hard to keep out of my mind, just knowing that there were probably animals watching us, aware of our presence.
But,
yeah, seeing a deer right now would fuck me up.
I think all my scariest experience with the dark have been like the classic like looking at a pile of clothes. It's just like you're in bed and you look at something too long in the dark,
Yeah.
and it starts to look like things. Like your brain makes it happen. Like there's a stick above you, like in the woods off a bit, that just like looks like a head to me, and it's like it just if I was just staring at that, I would get like. Hear that?
Yeah.
Huh.
That has to be like a flying squirrel or something.
I mean, it has been really quiet, you know.
We're also talking in the middle of the woods, so any animal like near here is probably like, I'm staying away from over there.
I agree with their decision. We should never stop talking.
When we were hoping to make a series that was kind of like based around the supernatural, so we were doing a lot of research at the time about like local like myths and legends and scary stories of just different creatures. And I feel like that was around the time where we both started to get like kind of scared of like walking alone at night. We were actively looking for like scary situations that we were in
Because we wanted to film.
Yeah, we
something
wanted to like get the
our
idea
area.
and like and write about what that felt like. And I feel like that's when we really started being scared.
Oh, I got like paranoid. I mean, obviously I'm out here and I see a little gremlin dude who's like telling me little like funny thing like follow me. I'll be scared.
Yeah.
No matter what. Even if he's like,
The thing is like,
it could be like My Little Pony.
yeah.
If I saw it out here, it doesn't matter, right?
Like I remember one time I was walking to the high school from my house, and it wasn't too far of a walk. It's like a little less than a mile, but it was at night, and the only like light there was from the occasional car driving by, and it would light up the whole woods for like maybe like 6 seconds, and then it'd be gone. And like I was thinking how scary it would be if in that like few seconds of light I saw something and then the light went out.
And then you're still next to it.
And then you're still there next to it and you can't see and you have to wait for your eyes to adjust. And that just made it scary to walk back home from school, which I was doing a good amount of times.
You have to remember, we're in a swamp, right? But this is... okay, let me finish.
It's funny to think that we're just sitting in a swamp.
We are just sitting in a swamp on 2 fold-out chairs, just slowly sinking into the muck with a laptop, some ginger beer, and a microphone. It's very strange. You hear another click in the woods. So, I think we're both, I mean, I hate to admit it, but we're both getting, like, pretty uneasy, I'd say.
Yeah.
The more I sit here and, like, think about it, like, it's all we're talking about. If I wasn't talking, I'd be a lot more scared, but it is having an effect.
It's definitely starting to get to me. I mean, it's already been starting to get to me, but, like, I don't know.
Sitting when the sun was setting, I was, like, fine, but I'm really, like, starting to feel like we have a long walk back.
That's the other thing.
And I'm just a little bit eager to...
I think I'm ready.
Yeah,
I think I've gotten
I think we're good.
We've gotten our fill of the Hockomock Swamp. It's... I don't know. I can understand myth and legend. I think even without, like, all the... the sightings and everything, it would still be it would still make me a little uneasy.
Yeah, I don't think I need to, like...
No, I don't
knowing things about it, I don't think it's changed a lot, because, like...
No.
But just the idea of the forest is just still... It's powerful enough to make me, like...
Yeah. just acres and woods and woods and woods of just, right now, darkness and not being
and
comfortable.
Literally, there are things watching us. Like
that squirrel over there.
I'm sure there's some like deer skirting around us that like know about us.
Yeah.
Like we're lighting it up. Like we are definitely being watched. Like I think that's safe to say.
I guess so. I didn't think of it that way. Now you just...
Right? I mean...
usually animals will like hear this or like see us and be like, nope. I don't think anything's like...
We're being glanced at.
Yeah. We're being side-eyed.
Yeah. Which honestly rude, but...
Yeah. Come say hi. Don't.
Please
don't do that.
Please don't.
Don't do that.
Well, I think we're going to try to pack up here and start our walk back. I think we're both kind of agreeing that walking through the forest on a path, you can't really see like the trees at all, but it's kind of scarier than like when we had a little area marked out for us.
So what was the point of all this? To prove that Bigfoot isn't real for the 300th time? In truth, it's easy to dismiss these stories and legends as fiction amid the myriad of evidence which contradicts them. But then, what are you left with? Just another boring forest? In an age where almost everything seems quantifiable, where we can at a moment's notice view the world objectively from above, or Google the Wikipedia page, there's something to be said for the allure of these stories. Real history, lives, deaths, fears, and experiences happened here. There is reason to keep the romance of the Hockomock alive, even as ridiculous as some of the claims can be. A spiritual fascination and the fear of a haunted swamp offers us an escape from a world where nature has been bisected by interstates and sprawling suburbs. A place where we can share a common experience with those who've lived here before us, even if otherwise it would just be that forest next to golf country. It would have been easy for us to waltz into these woods and mock anybody who's claimed to see anything other than trees, or to sensationalize it by screaming and running at every cracking twig. But by spending time here, we found that the Hockomock has its own charm, rarely mentioned in the legends and myths. Unbelievable events have happened here. Maybe not sightings of flying beasts and ghosts, but thousands of years of human experiences that we can feel closer to by traveling the paths they traveled. The lack of cryptids doesn't detract from the universal dread of a dark forest either, a dread that will conjure imaginary creatures from the corner of your eye the same way it has for hundreds of years. Even for two objectively minded idiots like us, the swamp in many ways felt spiritually connected to another place, to other lives lived tens or hundreds of years ago. The real Hockomock is an interesting place. You can see that through how many people have gone out of their way to tell stories about it. It's an intoxicating combination of history, emotion, and superstition, as long as you look a bit beneath the surface. Even though I did kind of want to see a ghost.
I have to make it look like handheld found footage.
Okay, you're over here.